All right, we're going to go over most of the Doxa models, and I have mostly diving stars on the table right now because that's what I have every model in. So let's start with the more prevalent models, the 300T and the 300. So the difference between these two is pretty substantial, but it doesn't look like it at the same time. When you look at the 300T, it's a 42.5 millimeter case, just like the 300. It is 44.5 lug to lug, whereas it's a 45 millimeter lug to lug on the 300. So that's a little bit different. And then usually people come down to the thickness of the watch. So we got the 300T at 13.65 and then a 13.4 thickness on the 300. It's only a 0.25 difference, but it's wears completely different, honestly, when you have it in person. Another thing is the flat sapphire crystal on the 300T, where you have a domed 300 sapphire crystal. Then we come back to the bracelet. We have the diver extension slider on the 300T, whereas you have a more standard flip for the 300. There's also a price tag difference, which the 300T is $21.90 and then $28.90 for the 300. That mostly comes from the cost certification on the 300 over the 300T. It's pretty funny because you get a little bit more watch, like modern things, out of the 300T than the 300, but you still are paying less. I mean, $21.90 for this dive watch is honestly an incredible deal. The 300T will also have the helium escape valve, whereas the 300 does not. So 300 meters for the 300, and then the 300T will be 1,200 meters, which is 3,937 feet. So if you're diving 3,937 feet, 300T is going to be your watch over the 300. So those are the two like highest selling ones. I mean, I guess the newest, latest 200T is right behind that. Take a look at that one. This one is their new 39 millimeter and has a 41.5 lug to lug. Then you'll also have an 18 millimeter lug width, whereas you have 20 millimeter on the 300T and the 300. This one is a super competitive price at 1,790. All these prices are on beads of rice as well, other than the carbon when we get to that one. So with a thickness of 10.7, so all of these have the same Swiss Solida. The only one with the 300 being cost certified because who knows why they do that one specifically over all the others. But I mean, technically Doxa takes a look at all of them, so they all run super well overall. I haven't really had one that is running much worse than the other ones. I don't test every single one for their timekeeping here at Belmont Watches, but overall, all of them are running within plus 5 seconds, and then you have the 300, which will run better. This wears smaller, the 200T, than you would think. So always recommending, and I have a lot of people come in, they're like, I've never put on a Doxa, so I want to try on a Doxa. So they always think that the 200T wears a little bit smaller than they would like, even though they love 38 millimeters. With that cushion case design, it just makes it wear a little bit smaller. So I always recommend trying on the 200T before really diving into it. So we're going to get into another one, which is probably one of my favorite from Doxa, which is the Beta. This has a ceramic bezel and a ceramic crown. That's the main difference that you'll see. The dials aren't going to be as poppy color. The Sea Rambler will have like a more silver dial, and then the Caribbean will have a dark blue dial, which looks awesome, obviously. But these are more subdued for sure when it comes to the dial. So I'll have the black sunray finish dial technically, and then with the yellow accents, with the yellow hand. This one is one of their technical previous models. They switched the hands to more of an army, like thicker hand over these stick hands. But this is definitely one of my more favorite ones because you get a little bit of both out of the 300T and the 300. So you get the case size being a, let me check, don't want to get it wrong, 42.5 with the 44.5 lug to lug, which is just like the 300T, but then it's 11.95 thickness, so a little bit closer to the 300, but actually a little bit less. You have the flat glass, which I love the flat glass with this style bezel. This is on Visa Rice as well for the price tag of $24.90. So you're in between the two again, not cost certified, but once again, Doxa takes a look at all these movements. So they're all running very well. Then you get the slider clasp for the wetsuit extension, which is awesome. It does have a helium escape valve, but it still is 300 meters. I'm not entirely sure what, like the addition of the helium escape to, but still keep the 300 meter, but I'm not Doxa. Looks great, I guess. So that's one of my other favorites. And then you'll come into a carbon, which will have the same case as a 300 with the 42.5 and the 45 lug to lug. These only come on strap, obvious reason, forged carbon. But for the price to get a forged carbon, I think it's incredible at a $43.90. The white is a little bit more because the dial actually looms up. But I mean, the yellow looks awesome. Comes with the slider wetsuit extension. It's also flatter at a 13.4, just like the 300. So pretty much the case is a 300 without the helium escape. So it'll be a 300 meter water resistance. So that's an awesome one. Then we'll come to the more entry level 200, which is more like a standard watch without the cushion case. I have another Diving Star. They also do steel bezel now, the steel inlay, and then the ceramic. With the yellow, I actually like the steel more. So this is a little bit less at or actually substantially less, at $12.90 for the 200 meters water resistant, 13.8 thickness, and then so 42 millimeter case flat, 46 lug to lug. So we'll wear it a little bit longer, you could say, but this is a more standard watch, dive watch in general. Same movement as all the rest, not cost certified, but for $12.90, like you're getting absolutely stunning watch all around. So that's a great one. I do not have a Diving Star GMT, but I personally have the professional 250T GMT. So that'll be a 40 millimeter, 42.9 lug to lug with a thickness at 10.85, 18 millimeter lug width, just like the 200T, but it's $27.90, but it also has the GMT function. So you're going to pay a little bit more for that one. So in total though, one of my favorites is still the Beta. I usually lean towards the Caribbean with the blue picture. And then also the Sea Rambler with the more silver dial looks incredible. I personally chose the GMT. I didn't have a GMT in the collection, first off, and I wanted orange. I'm kind of been thinking about switching back to maybe just doing a 300T professional, but I also love the yellow. But the Beta is a nice subdued yellow, has the ceramic. It's just a more modernized Doxa in my opinion, and it's a great price for the money, so we'll see where that lands. But here's an overview of pretty much all of the Doxas other than the 600T and like the 1500T is discontinued, and the chronographs. But these are like the main sold ones we sell in store. So hope this helps with sizing and what you can wear. Thanks, guys.